All right, so welcome to another video. Today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at 7 money habits that drain your bank account. Stay tuned. All right, so as we take a look at some of these things, you'll probably want to recognize and be aware of, hey, some of these things you could be doing. And if you can avoid some of these items that we have on our list, then you might be better off sometime in the future. So we're going to start with number 1, and that is bad credit card habits. Uncontrolled credit card spending can really increase your credit card interest. It can damage your credit score and give you a false sense of the money that you have available. In fact, as you look at credit cards, and there's some data directly from Experian here that you could see, the average credit card debt among consumers in their 30s, if you're looking at it, it's around $4,500. So as the age continues to increase, when we get into age 37, 38, people are having about $6,500 of credit card debt. And if you take a look at this next slide here, people in their 50s, so you can see as you continue to age, they continue to have more and more credit card debt. So here at age 55, they have $8,378 of credit card debt. And, somewhat later on, it starts to decrease because people are paying off their credit cards and whatnot, or maybe they're getting government funding. But in either case, in their 50s, it's some of the highest average credit card debt in the nation. So the second tip here, or reason that we have, is that not having a budget, especially more along the lines of kind of bigger purchases. It's not to say that if you have a bank account flush with cash, you need a budget. You just need to make sure your habits are in line. But if you go in and you don't have a budget for larger items, you don't stick to your budget at all, you're just uncontrolling your spending, then you're not going to make the right decisions personally on your financial choices. So be very careful when you don't have a budget in place, especially for like larger like home renovations, or you're making a big purchase for a car and that kind of thing that could really drain your bank account very quickly. Number 3, when we take a look at the money habits, is not having an emergency fund. Now, in some cases, I will say an emergency fund is not necessary. Again, let's just say you're spending maybe $2,000 of monthly expenses, mortgage, rent excluded. But if you have that and you have, let's say, a bank account flush with $100,000, you might not need a specific emergency fund. Or on the other cases, if your investments are very liquid, which some of the clients I deal with on my other website on tradersfly.com, people are trading stocks quickly in and out. So in that case, if your investments are very liquid, you might not need an emergency fund. But in general, for the average person, if you don't have an emergency fund, and let's just say you lose your job, or a certain situation forces you to, let's say, not work for a while, you might need to take out loans, you might have debt, and it may need to tap into your savings or investments, and that can really create some problems and burdens within your bank account. So be very careful there if you don't have a little bit of a cushion in that bank account. Number 4 is relying on one income source. Now, this could go along with, a spouse. So if you have one income source between you and your spouse, or it could also just mean one income source in total, like if you're running a business, because that really just puts you at a risk area where if that one income source is gone, then you can really have a big problem, whether you have to tap into your emergency fund or savings and so on, or if one family member is working and that income source just goes away, somebody gets fired, laid off, or gets sick, that could be a huge issue and drain to that bank account. All right, number 5 is impulsive or emotional purchases. And if we take a look at this is just basically spending money due to emotions, due to boredom. You're really going to drain your bank account very quickly. In fact, if you look at some statistics, some headlines here, consumers on average spend about $5,400 a year on just impulse purchases. So if you're just sitting around, you're just like, hey, I'm bored, I want to buy something, or you're looking at things, it'll cause you to spend more money. And here's another statistic here, is that on average 88.6 Americans have basically that temptation of impulse shopping, and an average spend of about $81 or so per session. Again, everybody's a little different, but it really just comes down to your own personal awareness of, hey, are you just going to the store to just hang out and maybe buy a few things? So periodically you will spend a little more if you're just kind of hanging out in those areas, just looking for something to do. Okay, let's take a look at number 6, and that's going to be subscription services. So monthly subscriptions from, let's say, streaming, products, courses. They're easy to forget because they only cost a few dollars a month, but they add up, especially if you don't make use of them. So here, Netflix is one of the biggest streaming services. Again, I'm not saying you can't watch Netflix, and as I talk about this right now, there's some investments that I have within Netflix. But as for looking and watching out for your bank account, watching how those subscription services can drain that bank account, these are pretty big time services with these monthly subscriptions because they do add up very quickly. And if we take a look at number 7, which is our last one, is shopping for status. This is more like keeping up with the Joneses. Let's say you're in high school and you got a part-time job making $15, $20 an hour, and now all of a sudden some of your friends have a nice fancy car, and maybe you want to go out and spend $15,000 on a car. The thing is when you're trying to keep up with people or you're shopping for status to show off things that you have, it can be really easy these days, especially with social media, and it forces you to spend more and throw off your budget, and it doesn't really put you on the plan for the right, appropriate kind of financial track. Instead, you're just trying to look good, I guess, for friends, family, and that kind of thing, and not so much watching your personal financial situation as much. So anyways, those are kind of 7 money habits there, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel by clicking the link right down below. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next episode.